Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Carrie from Conversations at Carrie's Corner. How are you today? Oh, it's Friday and it's a beautiful spring day. It is a little hotter than it has been here in Houston today, anyways. It's been a beautiful spring week in the 70s. A little bit warmer today than that, but a beautiful day nonetheless. So, I wanted to talk to you today about a specific career. First of all, let's catch up for a few minutes if you're new here. Thanks for joining me at Conversations at Carrie's Corner. This podcast is all about encouraging conversation, bridging the gap, if you will. In our society today, we are so divided on so many issues, and I just think that we all have to encourage conversation across the board, because when you come to a conversation, you sit down at a table and you are willing to communicate, that's when true change can start, and we really need that in our world today. In the United States, very badly. We are a very, very divided country at this point. And I sort of got the inspiration for this podcast. When I was a little girl, I had a very different upbringing. I grew up on the PGA Tour. My dad is a retired professional golfer. So we did a lot of traveling around this beautiful country when I was younger. And I can remember these trips that we would go on. Mom and my brothers and I would travel. Dad would go ahead and we would come up later. And a lot of times, as we would travel, we would stop at beautiful diners. These beautiful red, green, blue, shining. There was a lot of chrome. They were just, as a young person, they were stunningly pretty. And I have this picture in my mind. And I can remember my mom, she never knew a stranger. She would make friends in 5 minutes, and I can remember times where we'd stop to go in and have coffee or pie or a hamburger or whatever, and I can remember my mom just having these great conversations with people she'd never met in her life and come away with potentially a new friend or a new idea or a new position on something. And it's just stuck with me that these were places of conversation. And so when I was thinking about doing this podcast, this just kept coming back to me that if we could all go to the diner, sit down and talk about our problems, we'd probably make a lot of headway. And so taking that as the premise for this podcast, if we can sit down at the table and talk about things that we all deal with in our daily life, listen to each other respectfully, civilly, and listen, maybe we'll figure out how to close this huge gap in our communication right now. So that's how this podcast got started. I try to do 2 a week if possible. That hasn't been real regular lately. If you follow me, you probably know that I've had a very difficult 4 months. I had a shoulder replacement. That's why I keep moving my shoulder. Had a shoulder replacement in December and it failed. And then I had to have a complete reconstruction in March. So it's been a rough year. I've had 4 surgeries, and but we are working past that now. So I'm trying to get back to the 2 a week schedule. This is the second for the week. Careers. I have a following in some other areas besides my podcast, and one of my community members asked me earlier this week, would I choose the same career that I currently have? And that question really has been on my mind. I have spent my entire career in the insurance industry, with the exception of 5 years. During that period of time, I was an immigration officer for the Australian government. I am Australian originally, so I thoroughly enjoyed that in the Houston area. At the consulate in Houston, I issued visas for people to travel back and forth to my homeland. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. I did that for 5 years. And then I had my youngest child. So when I went back to work, I went back to the insurance industry because it's what I know. And the great thing about the insurance industry is you will always be able to find a job in less than a week. If you have any skills, if you've got a license and you've had training, I promise you, you will never wait more than a week to find a job. It is just one of those industries that we are always looking for people. So when I was in college, I fell into the insurance industry. I started to work for a brand new State Farm agent, and I just loved the industry. I love helping people, and it was a good fit. And I made, nice income, nice salary. And then as I got older, I was like, I'm working, doing all this hard work and making all this money for somebody else. Why am I doing that? Why don't I work for myself? And so I've been doing that for 13 years. So the question was asked, would I make the same career choice? And I have really thought about this all week. Insurance industry has been very, very good to me and my family. And I know I've always known that I could find work. I never had to wait ever to find work. I found it, almost the day that I would look for it. But the insurance industry has changed dramatically in the 43 years I have been in this industry. Dramatically. And not for the better. So as I was contemplating this question, I came to the realization that the answer was no. I would not choose this industry again. And there's a lot of reasoning behind that. Insurance is sales, right? The heart of insurance is sales. Okay, the product is just insurance. Just like if you go to financial planning, or you're in retail, or sell homes. I mean, it's all sales. So would I choose to be in sales and the product be insurance? And I finally came to the realization that the answer is no. And that really sort of took me back. My own answer took me back. So then I had to figure out, well, why do I feel that way? Well, lots of reasons. The last 4 years in this industry have been horrific because of the economy that we have faced here in the United States. My ability to help people has dwindled because of our economy. And I am a people pleaser. I like to help people. That's why I have stayed in this industry, because I am helping people protect themselves. And you know, probably firsthand through your own experiences, that insurance companies just don't care anymore. They try to get out of paying claims. They try to pay $1 instead of $2. And that's really hard for somebody like me who really develops relationships with her clients. I would rather have 10 really good, stable clients than 100 clients, because those 10 people are going to be much more stable, and my workload up front, during, and if they leave is much better than 10 people who I spend 5 hours on to get them quotes, and then in 6 months they leave. Because it's all about money. It's not about relationships. It's not about trusting who you work for or with. And so coming to that realization was a really big wake-up call. My true passion has always been writing. I went to school for journalism. When I was in high school, I was published. I have always loved to write. And my dream has always been to be an author because I love creative writing. When I was a young lady, I traveled back to Australia several times to visit my family, and one of my family, some of my family lived on the coast, and so I would go down to the coast and I'd climb out on the rocks with a pad and a pencil, and I'd be out there for hours. That's truly my passion, is writing, creative writing. So the decision, the answer to that question is no. I would have pursued my writing career. I actually had an opportunity to attend Vanderbilt and I turned it down. Probably one of my biggest regrets is that I was too afraid. It was too far from home. I just didn't do it. And my dad told me, you're going to regret it. And he was right. Yeah. So why have, I guess the question then is why do I feel this way now? Well, taking care of people doesn't mean anything anymore. As you know, customer service is a dying art, and to really provide good customer service, you have to be willing to put it all out there, work hours after hour after hour. And unfortunately, in our world today, that's just not appreciated anymore. Hard work, availability, and really taking care of people doesn't matter. That's a sad commentary of our society. We have lost the ability to appreciate how time-consuming customer service really is and how it is a dying art. Everything is automated. Do you remember the last time that you'd call somebody and actually get a human being to pick up the phone? It just doesn't happen anymore. If I'm at my desk and my phone rings, I'm picking it up. Like right now it's ringing, but I don't know the person calling, so I'm not going to stop this video. But customer service is a dying art anymore, and it's not appreciated. I can spend 5 or 6 hours quoting a package of policies for somebody and get them a good rate, saves them money, and then I never hear from them. I don't even get a thank you. And I will follow up, and then I'll get, I decided to go somewhere else, and oh yeah, I appreciate your effort. Well, no, you don't. Because if you'd appreciated the effort, you would have responded to the original email that said, here are your quotes. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. The average new person in my agency, I have to devote 6 or 7 hours just to have the opportunity to present quotes to them. If you calculate that out on an hourly basis, it just doesn't pay anymore. Providing good customer service that is appreciated just doesn't mean anything. And that's truly why my answer is no, I would not choose it again. I would go into something where I don't have to depend on others to just be decent and have good manners, appreciate effort. I would go into something where I'd be an editor or something where I didn't have to deal day to day with people, because people just don't seem to care anymore. And I feel like that's another reason why our country is so divided. Nobody is willing to listen. Nobody is willing to participate. So you end up spending a lot of time and effort, and at the end of the day, nothing. Now, I've, insurance has been very good to me, but in the last 4 years, it has changed dramatically. And I don't know that I could even encourage anybody, unless our market really turns around and we as agents have a lot more opportunities. And that's really sad, because customer service is the driving force behind everything. And our businesses in the world today just don't provide it. And for a lot of reasons, that's probably good, because then you don't get to the point where I am, where I have lost faith in the ability to develop relationships that appreciate effort, because we are all so modern, we are all so driven by technology these days that it doesn't have value. And that's really a shame, because insurance is your first line of defense to not lose everything you've worked your entire life for. So it is a really sobering answer to say that no, I would not choose it again. I would do more, like I said, around writing, journalism. I certainly wouldn't be a journalist, because we don't have journalists anymore. We might have maybe a handful of true journalists anymore in this country. Somebody like Megyn Kelly, potentially, Dan Bongino, Tucker Carlson, who tell the truth, who present both sides. That industry, like the insurance industry, has lost their way when it comes to people, communicating with people, because of the lack of that, people have checked out. They don't care. It's all about numbers. It's not about developing a relationship with somebody that you can call and ask advice to. That's dead and buried. Customer service is almost extinct. And sales and customer service have to go hand in hand. If you don't have one, you won't have the other. That's why so much of our industry now is self-driven. Go online, make your changes to your automobile, order your ID cards, get a new policy. You don't, the requirement to go to an insurance office is almost completely void. The only thing you need agents for is to answer questions, to make sure, because you're not more than likely trained, how are you going to know what's the appropriate thing and not the appropriate thing? So there we are. It's a sobering realization after 43 years of devoting my career to developing my skills. I don't know where that leaves me either. Maybe it leaves me to the point where I have really got to think about adding something else or changing. But at this stage, with retirement just around the corner, doesn't leave me a whole lot of options, does it? And that's because society has just checked out. They don't appreciate the 6 hours that it takes to go through 14 carriers to give you a quote on your home and your auto, and then to not even say thank you for the effort until I follow up because I have failed to hear from you. It's just not okay. I don't want to do business with people who don't appreciate the effort, bluntly spoken. So, if you're a young person and you're in college, really think about what you want to study. Look at your life 40 years down the road. Will you still be happy with the choice that you made? It's a big decision. It's hard to change careers midstream or towards the end. So really think about what you want to do. Find your passion and then follow that passion. Because if you're passionate about something, you will always make it work. I think part of it is just our society has changed so drastically. It started to change with the internet, then the cell phone, and then social media. And those three things are the reason that customer service is now almost completely dead across the world in all business. And insurance now is catching up. And my specialty is customer service. Doesn't really give you much to look forward to, unfortunately. So, I don't know if that's the kind of answer you were looking for, but the one thing I've always told my community is that I will always be open and honest and give you the answers that you ask for. And there you go. Find your passion. Make sure you can look down the road 40 years, and will it still make you happy at the end of that road? Really think long and hard about the decisions you make as you are in college. It's a big decision. And what I would tell you is, most importantly, go and follow what gives you the greatest joy and the most passion. And if you follow that, you'll figure it out. And pray there's no major new things that happen to our society, including COVID, the internet, cell phones, and social media, because those are the big driving factors as to why this industry, the sales industry, the insurance industry, is just really hard, because it's so unappreciated. Face-to-face communications are almost a dying thing, unless it's, your family, or you go to the doctor, or you go to the grocery store, and you don't have to be in person for either of those anymore. Just think about how much our society has changed with the technology that we've developed in the last 30 years. The internet, cell phone, and social media. How has it affected you? I know how it has affected me, and not in the right way, unfortunately. If you've watched this and you're a young person, find your passion, follow it, and you'll always be happy in what you do. And make a commitment to it. So, have a wonderful weekend, everybody. I pray that you take some time to decompress. Because of all these wonderful things that we have in technology, sometimes we forget to just step away and go sit outside in the sun, or work in your garden, or go for a walk, or go to the beach. Gotta have downtime. You gotta let your brain decompress. That's another reason why we are all so on this treadmill, is that we don't take enough time to get off it and really decompress. It's a big problem, and it's going to be even bigger as the years go by for the following generations. Everything is changing, and I unfortunately don't think it's for the best. I can remember my mother saying this. I was like, yeah, no, Mom, it's all good. She was right. She saw it. She knew it. And she predicted so many of the things that are happening in our world today, because we have lost the ability to talk to each other and appreciate and value somebody's expertise in what they do, because technology has replaced it. Technology has replaced human beings. The United States of America is figuring that out right now. So, twice a week, conversations at Carrie's Corner. Anything is on the table, any subject that you want to talk about. And I'd love some feedback. So give me some feedback. Let me know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'm sure there's plenty on both sides. And I hope you have a spectacular weekend. We will see you next week. Twice a week, conversations at Carrie's Corner. Because we're just all about helping us come back to the table, to sit down, have conversations, so we can figure out how to close this terrible divide that is throughout the world. It's just not the United States, it's everywhere. We got to learn to talk to each other again. Because when we really listen, that's where true change starts. And that's where we can begin to fix the problems that we are facing worldwide. God bless, and we'll see you the next time. This is Carrie from Conversations at Carrie's Corner. Have a fabulous, safe weekend, everybody. God bless.